I recently went to a book event that featured Paige Toon celebrating the publication of What If I Never Get Over You, and Beth O'Leary celebrating the publication of Swept Away. And they were interviewed by the lovely Jane Costello, who released last year It's Getting Hot in Here, and has an upcoming publication coming up, which featured in my 25 books to read in 2025. So if you've missed that one, I'll leave it linked up above. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about these three books, these three authors, and show you some footage of the event. Woo! Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina, and I make bookish content here on this channel, as well as movie reviews. Not quite as regularly as I would like to, but hey. So yeah, I went to a book event. I went to the Liverpool Waterstones event with these authors. I've talked about these authors on the channel here before, so we're going to do a little book review and a little bit of event footage for you as well. So first up, let's talk about Paige Toon, What If I Never Get Over You. I actually have a whole Paige Toon playlist on this channel because when a lot of us were staying at home a lot more with less to do, I did a complete reread of Paige Toon's back catalogue because there were some books that I'd missed out, and so some books I was reading for the first time, and we did a bit of a read along. I read one a week and we discussed them here on the channel. So I have full book talks talking about each of Paige Toon's books, and this is her latest book, which came out in the UK on I want to say the 8th of April, because I think I was seeing it the next day, and I had a stop on the blog tour as well, so I was reviewing this one. There are actually two special editions of this one, as well as the regular edition. So this one here has the spreads, so it's got orange spreads on the top and bottom, and then the fireworks spreads on the edge. And this one you can get at the Works, and then Asda has a tickled pink edition which has pink spreads as well, which I think Paige Toon's had a pink spreads one before. But basically I read this one when I actually had a little bit more time to read. Very exciting. I talked in my 25 books of 2025 that I had actually read this one, and it was just great to be back in a Paige Toon novel again. This book did not make me cry. I think it may be basically the only Paige Toon book to have not made me cry in the history of Paige Toon books. Maybe I was just hardened to reading it and just wasn't in the mood to be crying. But love Paige Toon characters, love the fact that we get to escape with a Paige Toon novel, and there's always a hot Aussie in a Paige Toon novel as well, which is no exception. The main character of this one is Ellie. She's tried to do the wild and independent woman whilst travelling, but we know that there's sort of something holding her back a bit. Then she meets Ash, and Ash is also solo travelling, and kind of says, do you want to spend the last couple of days travelling together before we have to go back home? And then they arrange to meet, and basically he doesn't show up, or so she thinks. Obviously, with a Paige Toon novel, there's always going to be a little twist in there as well. So then we see sort of Ellie going back home, tail between her legs a little bit, and going back to her family business. And that part was the part which probably brought me close to tears, because that part, she kind of had to hold everything inside, and it was a really emotional time for her because it wasn't where she wanted to be, it wasn't what she wanted to be doing, and it was actually really difficult to read. But she does it. She gets enough money to pay her parents back for whatever she needs to pay them back for, and then she's like, right, time for me to do my own thing. And goes off on a bit of a career change, and that's when Ash walks back into her life. And this section of the book is where it kind of, you get to have a bit of fun. Ellie gets to have a bit of fun and let loose again, a bit like we saw her at the beginning of the book. And we get to meet Ellie's new group of friends here who are fabulous, and, sit outside having barbecues and celebrate each other's birthdays and engagements, new relationships and what have you. And yeah, it was just It was lovely. And Paige Toon does a short chapter, and I love a short chapter. And it just keeps making you turn the pages. And so even when we got to the point where it was like, okay, what's going on with, you know, Ellie's life and what have you, you just kept turning the pages. You couldn't stop. And so that makes for a quick read as well. So if you are expecting an emotional tearjerker of a page two novel, this is not one of those. If you're expecting that little bit of traveling, that bit of free spirit, independence, escapist, this is what you're going to get with this page two novel. So then on to the Beth O'Leary novel. Again, I talked about this one in my 25 books that I want to read in 2025, because the tagline for this one is "Lost at Sea with Your One Night Stand." So, I mean, if the tagline doesn't get you hooked into this one, as soon as you start reading about Lexi and Zeke, then you will definitely be hooked into this one. And a bit like the Page Toon one, I read this in 2 sittings because I could not put it down. I don't know how Beth O'Leary has these ideas for these original plots. So she has these taglines where it's like, what if this happened? What if two strangers shared a flat, but they never met? And, what if your one night stand and you ended up on a houseboat lost at sea? It's just completely ridiculous. But then she writes one of my favourite things, which is a dual narrative. I love a dual narrative. And so we've got Lexi's point of view and Zeke's point of view. And what she's done here is she's made you instantly empathise with these characters, because you are also trapped on the houseboat with them. They are trapped on a houseboat. They've got nowhere to go. They're pushed together, but you are pushed together with them. So each situation, you have your side of the story of what you're seeing Lexi and Zeke doing. You hear Lexi's side of it. You see Zeke's side of it. And it's just like the perfect storm of a novel. You just, again, can't stop turning the pages. Now, these chapters are not short, so when you give yourself a one more chapter, you find yourself, reading 10 pages or so. They're not long chapters, but they're not as short as Page Toon's chapters, say. And it's just kind of really easy to get to know the characters, and with it being such a kind of small setting and just the 2 characters, it's obviously going to be a very character driven book. But we also have the fact that these guys are out in the open water, they're out at sea. So you spend the book going, I just want them to survive. I just want them not to drown, not to die, but also you kind of just want them to get it on as well. So it's a really interesting balance of like holding your breath because you think that they might be in a life or death situation, and then holding your breath because they're in close quarters and they're, it's a hot sunny day and they might get it on. So whilst there is some light, funny moments in the book and there is some romance in the book, there are also moments where I literally gasped multiple times. Like, gasped because I thought something bad was going to happen. Gasped because there was like this sudden twist that I did not see coming. Big reveal, Beth O'Leary. But also kind of just, it was very intense because I was with these characters and they were in this moments of peril, multiple moments of peril. So whilst it is a romance, there are some serious moments in here. And you've got Lexi who wants to be strong and is capable to do everything, but she has this lack of self-confidence. And then Zeke, who, has less life experience than Lexi because he's much younger, but definitely has a self-assured confidence. He knows what he wants and he's going for it. And yeah, again, read it in about 2 days, couldn't put it down. And then finally, I know the event wasn't about Jane Costello, but it was amazing to finally have a Jane Costello novel again. I've been a fan of Jane Costello for a long time. I don't know if I've actually talked about Jane Costello books on this channel. I know I've reviewed all of her books on my blog, which is always linked below. But I think I've only talked about her writing as Catherine Isaac on this channel. So she wrote rom-coms about women in their 20s and 30s when I was in my 20s and 30s, and they were amazing. Absolutely loved Bridesmaids and the 30 before 30 list. I can't remember the exact title, but I adored that book because I was close to turning 30 at the time, and so it was just perfect timing. It was great. Bridesmaids, absolutely hilarious. But it's just awesome that now she's switched. She's like, okay, so those readers who were in their 20s and 30s when I was writing about women in their 20s and 30s, they're now in their 40s and 50s, and so now I need to start writing about characters who are in their 40s and 50s. And a lot of novelists are doing this, and I am very much here for it. So we have Lisa Darling, and this is obviously Lisa on the front here, and her never-ending to-do list. So a little bit like where Bridget Jones starts with her weight and number of cigarettes and alcohol units and what have you. Lisa Darling's chapters, they all start with her to-do list, the never-ending to-do list. And again, relating to the main character, I can totally relate to her never-ending to-do list. Lisa basically just wants what's best for her children, and she also wants to kind of be successful in her career. She just wants to be happy. She's, her parents are still around, so she's still trying to impress them, and also has this whole exasperation with her ex-husband thing. And whilst I don't have children or an ex-husband, I could totally relate to her kind of just trying to do the right thing, trying to juggle all the different things at work whilst trying to also keep up with the personal to-do list or the home life to-do list of descaling the kettle. Must descale my espresso machine. She's got some great friends in this book. She's got her sort of PTFA group, which there's obviously the kind of drama that you see in PTFA groups. And then she's got her best friend Rose. And whilst this book made me laugh out loud quite a lot, and there was some hot moments that weren't just menopausal hot moments, her best friend has been diagnosed with cancer, and so there's that whole thing going along with this book as well. So it is real life too, but basically her best friend being ill and being off work is the spanner in the works that throws Zach into Lisa's life, hot American Zach. And that's where kind of Jane Costello throws all of those romance tropes in there. It was like the bingo card of romance tropes, any tropes you can think of that I'm not going to list here because it'd be spoilers for the book. They were mostly in this novel. And so it was just so great being back in a Jane Costello rom-com. I absolutely loved it. If you are already a fan of Jane Costello, this book will not disappoint. Don't be put off by the fact that she's not writing 20s and 30s rom-coms anymore. This is that same vibe. This is that same Jane Costello tone. She's still going to make you laugh. She's still going to be brutally honest. And if this is your first Jane Costello, or you've discovered her through reading her Catherine Isaac books, it's not going to be as weighty and kind of emotional as the Catherine Isaac books, but you're going to have a good time with this one. And I absolutely loved it. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of clips from the event that I went to. And if you keep an eye out on my Instagram, which is also linked below, I did get a couple of extra signed copies of this, which I'm going to be doing a giveaway of. So if you made it this far in the video, you get the sneak peek of the giveaway. I'm going to get some giveaways, but all the books are going to be linked in the description box as well, because they are all out now. They are all recommended reads, and it's just been amazing getting into them and reading them and being able to bring you a review here. I hope you enjoy the clips. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and I will see you with another video very soon. Thanks for watching.
Good question. So I think probably the sort of feel that you get from all my books, the kind of thing that is that you can't put your finger on that makes it feel like a Beth book, I hope is the me bit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, Swept Away, I mean, it's definitely not based on me. It's about two strangers who end up lost at sea together after a one night stand on a houseboat that is swept out to open ocean. So unsurprisingly, this is not not my story, but it's a story about big love. It's about love in crisis and exhaustion and kind of against the odds. And so in that sense, it kind of makes sense that it was a love story that I wrote when I had a very small baby, and I kind of think my own love story is in there in a sense, in the way of like how exposing it can be to be thrown into motherhood, but also kind of how that can bring you together with your partner, that sense of sort of you're both in it together, you have no idea what you're doing, and I think I wanted to write a big kind of a love story that felt big enough for the kind of feelings that I was having in that time, because it was such an intense emotional time. And in some ways, you know, there's a lot about parenthood in the story. So even though it's very much a rom-com about two people on a boat, it's you kind of the little bits of you work their way in, don't they?
What about you, Paige?
Well, I've been sitting here racking my brain trying to think about the way that I've written myself into this book, and I actually genuinely can't think. I mean, there's a little bit of me in every single book that you'll read, which I think is probably why friends sometimes find it hard to read an author friend's book, because they can hear, you know, the person talking. So there's not really, but I mean, I'm like, you know, 21 books in, and yeah, if I was still writing myself into stories, but it's always an emotion. It's always something that I want to feel. And I think because Seven Summers was so heartbreaking, and so like I was broken writing that book, I needed to write something that was going to, like, this one won't kill you in the same way that Seven Summers did, you know. It's a lot, like, it really sort of healed me. I mean, they still go through their paces, you know, still an emotional roller coaster, but it was just a much less painful book and a more fun book to write, and, you know, sort of told over lots of years. But yeah, I'll think about this later, and I'll be like, oh my god, that's what you did, you know. I wrote it a year ago, like.